Guys, we're on a different platform. Yes, we are. We are live on the YouTube right now instead. This is new, so bear with me here. This is the Stormmaster Weather Team. I have them on the phone. We are literally going to be talking about Hurricane Ian tonight. Our thoughts of how we went through that, the damage, stuff like that. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about our thoughts on the winter season tonight. So, if you're watching this video, like and subscribe. And if you got a comment for us, come on, go right on ahead. That would be great for us to get that out there. So, let's get started. We have one of the best on the team. We have Kate on here. She is part of the Stormmaster Weather team. Say hello, Kate. Hello. And Stormcaster Mia will be on here in just a moment. But let's get started with kind of like let's go through this, because when it came to Ian, to be honest with you guys, I really don't have much on the experience level when it comes to tropical systems, stuff like that. I don't really have much of the experience on tropical systems. Kate did, and Mia kind of did, especially with Sandy, I think. But I wanted to try something new. I really wanted to try something new. I wanted to see if we could do this, and we got the job done. The job was done.
Absolutely.
So
we've had almost 24-hour coverage. We were covering everything from flooding to tornadoes to landfall, to second landfall to third landfall. We were on top of it.
Yes, we was all on top of it. Probably one of the most memorable moments, one of them during our coverage, was during the tornado situation. We actually had tornadoes that really touched down and impacted a few areas in southeast Florida. Go ahead.
About 7 tornadoes from when they started, before the tornadoes were even born, all the way until the dissipation of the storms. I think we tracked like 6 or 7 that impacted mostly the eastern, southern area of Florida.
Yes, very, very much so. We had several hour streams. We was live on Facebook, and we covered it all. We covered it all, and like I said, I'm proud of everybody that was along with that. That was something I never have done before. So I love weather, but tropical systems is still something I'm learning about. But I learned a lot with that system. The damage. Do we have like a damage estimate on how much money that the damage estimate is right now?
Let me pull it up really quick.
Absolutely. By the way, you will start to see more content on YouTube for Stormmaster Weather in the coming weeks. We did one last week, did a little introductory. But this one's a test stream. Let's see how it goes. And I am really happy with how things have transpired over the past couple of weeks. So
I have that information pulled up. It says preliminary property damage estimates for Ian so far ranged from 42 billion to as much as 258 billion.
Oh my goodness!
In that higher range, it's going to be one of the costliest disasters ever in the United States.
Yes. one of the most costliest disasters in the United States was Sandy. Sandy was a part of that. Katrina was a major one. But Ian now goes on that list, and I have a feeling that Ian will be retired. That will be a retired storm. Who thinks that that will be a retired storm?
Me, I absolutely don't.
Yeah, I absolutely think we're gonna that name's gonna be completely retired out of the dictionary from the National Hurricane Center. With that being said, could we get?
I'm seeing right now there is very strong it's going to be retired. I think that it is going to be retired come spring of next year.
It would have to be. It would have to be. It was an unprecedented storm. It made 3 landfalls.
Yeah.
Cuba, Florida, and Carolinas. Also caused snow. Yes, officially it did snow with Ian. It was right along the Carolinas and Tennessee border. It was right along there, but we did get snowflakes with this system. So we had everything. We had storm surge. We had just so much. We had so much.
And if this hurricane could have caused an earthquake, you would have put every single natural disaster caused by one storm.
Oh, no doubt. You are not wrong whatsoever that this was one of the most costliest disasters in the United States history. I mean, this is one of them. It's one of them. I'm going to say it's the one, but it's one of them. That's for sure. If we could get some type of charity or something set up so we can donate down there, we would absolutely do it without a question. No doubt, for sure.
Currently, Team Rubicon is still deploying people down into the Naples, Sanibel Island area.
Okay.
So they are taking donations to help cover the flight costs, the lodging costs, and the equipment costs to get people down there to help tear down and rebuild.
Okay. Gotcha. I mean, there's people that still don't even have a house. There are still people that don't have electricity. There are still people. There's so much going on down there that it would be hard for us to explain every single thing that's going on down there. For sure. However, I do think that as we continue to recover from this, because it will recover. Now, I will state, and I do think this is an interesting topic, is with climate change and with sea level rise, especially, storm surge is becoming more severe, more significant. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And the area that it is impacting is so much greater than previously. Like previously, we would see storm surge in Florida, the Gulf of Mexico area, and now we're starting to see incredible storm surge up into the Mid-Atlantic, which is pretty unprecedented.
Yes, that's pretty rare. Pretty rare, to be honest. So as we get into next storm, because there's always a next storm. And next storm, we will be covering this. We will be covering tropical systems. I made a commitment to that, and I'm going to stick by it. So tropical systems will be covered with Storm Master Weather going forward. Whether it is YouTube or whether it is Facebook, that is a question mark right now. It is a huge question mark, and that will be something decided down the road. But as we continue to talk about Ian, one of the moments I was looking at was when I was watching your 24-hour news stream, Kate, is when they was interviewing, I think it was like a older woman, and she was so emotional, but she was so grateful that she survived the storm. And it just goes to show you that items can be replaced and people cannot be replaced.
Yeah, just the lives lost to the storm, along with pets lost and people retired, everything that they have worked for their entire lives lost in such a short time.
And if I'm correct, and this is just me spitballing here, but the number one leading cause of death in a hurricane is storm surge.
Absolutely.
Storm surge. Because it comes in so fast, it's not something you can, you kind of prepare for. But we also, and this is something along the coastlines of the U.S. need to work on, is better evacuation plans. I was noticing some problems with the evacuation process in Florida, but Florida can be overpopulated at points, so that will aid into that problem.
And one of the biggest issues, over half of the people that were killed by Hurricane Ian were drowned victims, and a lot of them were elderly individuals.
Yes.
To escape or evacuate.
No doubt about that. One of the things also I will add when it comes to that too is when you don't evacuate. I'm not going to talk down about someone when they don't evacuate, but it is really prudent that you do. It is your choice. That's for sure. It's everyone's choice what they want to do in a situation. And clearly in that situation, they have a choice. And that choice, if you want to evacuate, you want to evacuate. Now, I will say what the most irresponsible thing, and we saw it live on our air, was actual people going out into the water, in the storm surge water, on a pier, if I'm correct, Kate. And that was just...
Yeah, it was in Naples.
In Naples, and that was irresponsible. Complete irresponsibility.
I shut the feed down for about 2 minutes because I was so afraid they were going to be dashed against the pylons. I didn't want that live on our page.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know why people do those type of things. I just don't. Because in those types of situations when we're talking about life-threatening storm surge, it's more of a safety thing. It's a safety thing. You really don't want to do that. Because what if the water's larger than you think? There's so many factors that come into all this. That's the first thing I would say.
The sheer amount of stuff that is in the water. You don't know who's going to washed out or is coming back in. It could be rebar, it could be electrical wires. There's so many different factors. That's
something that we all got to think about. Even in a flood, and also, you're right, especially in a tropical system, hurricane, albeit. You don't know what's going on in the water. There could be pieces of wood that's sharp, metal objects. There's so many objects that are in that storm surge water that you just don't know what you're going to do. You just don't know. So,
circling back to the evacuation, there's a lot of gaps in resources for individuals that do not have the means to evacuate.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the poorer areas of Florida that were impacted. A lot of people are not able to afford the gas, the hotel room, or people that work in the post office that can't afford to just work, things like that.
But we got to have some type of better accessibility in these types of events. More resources, big time. And the last time we had a landfalling tropical system, especially a hurricane, this strong of a hurricane, in southwest Florida was Hurricane Charlie.
Yeah.
And that was a long time ago. So sometimes people get this mentality of, well, it's hitting other areas, but it's not hitting me. It's not hitting me.
Or we survived this storm, we'll survive the next storm.
Yeah. If we survive this storm, we'll survive the next storm. That is a big point of emphasis here. Every storm, and I've learned this in the tropical weather world, every storm is different. Every storm is different. Size, impacts. There's so many different things when it comes to tropical systems. It's amazing to track.
I heard from multiple people say, "Oh, well, we stayed here during Irene, or okay after Irene, we stayed here and we evacuated because we were okay during Irene." But every storm is so incredibly different. And this was a whole different kind of beast.
One of the things, and we're about to get into the winter talks because I know a lot of people are really, really wanting me to talk about this winter because I do think this winter is going to be interesting. Just the multiple landfalls. When you have multiple landfalls, and I know people talk about these categories, category 1, category 2. Well, it doesn't matter if it's a category if it hits your place. I mean, if it hit my place and we're talking about a category 2 hurricane, that's strong in my book. That's strong in my book. That's significant in my book. No matter if it's category 1 or a category 5. If it hits your place, it is a major problem. So let's be honest about that. Let's not just say, oh well, it's just because it's a category 1 doesn't mean it's gonna impact me much. Well, it could very much impact you. Very much impact you. We got 3 people. That's the highest we've had on this live stream so far. So that's a good thumbs up. We'll do that and give that like and subscribe to the Storm Master Weather page on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel that we have for you. So, in closing on this, I think the uniqueness of the storm, it was a large storm. You can literally see the cloud field all the way into the Canadian Maritimes, which is not something that you see from a tropical system all that often. It's not. It's just not often. Not at all. So, we're about 18 minutes on into this. So we'll start talking a little bit about the winter. I am interested because a lot of people have talked to me over the past couple of days and couple of weeks. Hey Nate, what's your thoughts on winter? Well, let me tell you what my thoughts are. This is going to be a difficult winter to track. We are already seeing, and me and Kate have really identified this already, and Storm Knight Lane, we'll introduce you to him later on. We've been identifying that there has been some much colder pushes than what we typically see in the month of October. That does not mean, now let me be very honest with you, that does not mean we're going to have a harsh winter. You got to take it a month at a time. And I really want to put that in emphasis. You got to take it a month at a time because this month may be colder than normal, but next month, November, could be warmer than normal. That's just the climate we live in these days. You don't know what the weather's going to be too much a week from now, let alone 4 weeks from now. But I do see a consensus of potential significant winter weather as far as the Northeast and over there by the Chicago region. I do think those 2 regions are, I would say, candidates for the larger snow. Now, I will say, let's ask Kate on what her thoughts this winter is looking like, weather-wise. What do you think?
So the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration will put out their information coming Thursday. But so far what we've been looking at is probably above average temperatures in the eastern seaboard all the way to the south and southwest. and below average temperature in the Pacific Northwest. That's kind of just what I've been looking at. So I'm not really sure how that would translate to winter weather coming, January, February, and stuff like that. But we will get more information from NOAA on Thursday.
I will say the past 5 years with winters, we've seen dramatic temperature swings. Like, I've seen systems where we're in the 60s and we're seeing rain and thunderstorms, and then all of a sudden a cold front swings in and we're in the high in the 20s. That is possible this winter. I will say, and this is a good news, I'm thinking, so far, indications are showing less severe weather this winter. Less severe weather this winter. I'm certainly seeing signs of a less problematic severe weather winter. Severe weather in the winter is very tricky to track. If you haven't tracked it before, it is not easy. Storms usually move very fast, highway speed. They move so fast that it's hard for you to catch them, number one. Number two, you have tornadoes in the dark, and tornadoes in the dark is something that is it's a very dangerous thing. When you can't see something that destructive, and then it's at night, there's a problem there. There is a serious issue there. And some of the things I also will say, they need to improve these tornado warning systems better. These tornado sirens are just not cutting it out anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, it needs to be more streamlined and more, federalized.
More mainstream. Has to be.
Standard nationally.
Yep, completely has to be a mainstream thing. Because if we don't get it mainstream, we're not going to be able to connect to the newer, younger generation. That newer, younger generation is not going to be able to understand what is going on. Also, I'm noticing some high wind events happening more and more in the winter too. That is indicative of what they call an amplified jet stream. A very amplified jet stream. We've seen that the past several winters. Now, I will say I have seen less snow get way far south. Like last winter, I'd say the winners of the snow would have to be Tennessee and Kentucky. They just kept getting hit. They kept getting hit over and over and over again. It was just nonstop. And I was wondering when it was going to end. And then meanwhile, up here in Ohio, we was seeing some of the snow, but we would get kind of like the glancing blows, except a couple of systems for sure. Now.
Yeah, it's definitely cyclical. Some years, I feel like the Mid-Atlantic and the Ohio River Valley kind of trade off their years for snow. Either the Mid-Atlantic gets slammed and Ohio not nothing, or vice versa.
Well, for Mid-Atlantic winter storms, you need different ingredients than what you do in the Ohio Valley.
I'm talking about Appalachian areas, like Appalachian, Mid-Atlantic, West Virginia, Western Maryland, and Pennsylvania.
And I know people will bring up, the climate is changing. There shouldn't be snow out there. Well, my belief, as well as a lot of people in this weather team's belief, climate change is not just to temperatures going up. It's not just that. There's a lot of other things going on.
A lot more moisture going into the atmosphere.
Boom. There's a lot more moisture going into the atmosphere, so you have heavier systems. That's the first thing. Second of all, the term polar vortex started coming up. I think it was like 10, 15 years ago that term was really going mainstream, is polar vortex. And that's just basically meaning that the polar cold, the cold up there in the Arctic Circle is breaking down, so it's leaking in to areas like Canada. It usually does that, and then the United States, which it sometimes does that. Now, on average, that's about a 1 to 2 times a winter thing. That's not every winter you'll get to see that though. We've seen winters.
So it's becoming so much more. It's happening so much more often.
It's happening so much more often. Here's an example. A couple of years ago, or a few years ago, we had a winter storm in one of the more most areas that you usually don't think snow. You guessed it, the Lone Star State, Texas. They seen record snowfall, record cold. Power grids were failing. The power grids were failing. These amplified jet streams are really potent. They're really potent. Now most of the time they're usually 2 to 3 days long. This one lasted over a week. And it was just problem after problem after problem after problem. But the point of emphasis is winter can bring you everything. One of the things I want to talk about is the different types of winter precipitation. The first one you have is snow. That's a basic one. That everybody in winter. Has just a general knowledge of weather and stuff like that. Knows that. That's not a problem. That's all the columns in the atmosphere cold. Where it starts to get more interesting is when we talk about the other two, sleet and freezing rain. And in the past couple of years, I have seen more wintry mix systems which are worse than just straight up all snow events. Yes, if you get a lot of snow, I understand what you're saying, but snow is better than ice. We can all agree on this. Snow is better than ice. Winterizing your vehicles. That is one of the things I wanted to bring up. Make sure your windshield wipers are ready. Your tires are ready for winter weather. What other things should you have ready for winter weather, Kate?
Making sure that your antifreeze is topped off. Ensuring the insulation of your home is intact and good.
And then for your home, check your pipes.
Updated. Yeah.
Check your pipes.
Make sure that furnace of yours is working and it's in safe and working condition. If you have any sort of like gas, make sure it's hooked up. Just general stuff like that.
Yes. Winter driving can be very hard. Give increased following distance. Yes, I'm a student driver, but I know that. Give increased following distance. Instead of just giving them a few car lengths, give them a little bit more. Give yourself a little bit more elbow room. You can drive better in the snow than you can in ice. Ice, there's no traction. No matter what, there will be no traction in ice. And that's another thing.
If you don't need to drive somewhere, do not drive somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And that's in no matter what winter weather. If that's an urge, stay off the roads. Let the road crews do what they're designed to do, which is clean up the roads.
Like me get to work.
Yes, it helps Kate get to work. It helps the city stay functional during a weather event.
It's hard to get to work and, all your nurses and aides and doctors and everything get to the hospital when there's people playing bumper cars and it's like ice. So you can avoid playing bumper cars. Also, where Mercury's around every time it ices, our ER becomes inundated with trauma cases of people getting in severe wrecks and people falling on the ice and breaking hips and legs and arms, wrists. We get a lot of head traumas, people bouncing their heads off, and that really inundates the already overloaded health system.
I'm working on a graphic a picture that I just found that helps explain these precipitation types. We're going to show that because in the winter, you can face all types of precipitation. The precipitation is very, very important. So we're going to change this up. There we go. All right. So as we are talking about precipitation, this is rain. I mean, we all know what that is. That means all columns in the atmosphere are above freezing. The surface layer is warm, above freezing. It is all rain that falls. Hail, okay, well, that is in a severe thunderstorm, and those happen with basically strong updrafts. What we're going to be mainly talking about is these four over here. So we're going to start off with snow. Like I said, snow when the whole column is below freezing. When the whole column is below freezing, and there's different types of snowflakes. And that can be quite fascinating to understand is there's different types of snowflakes that you notice when it comes to winter weather, for sure. Then we have the interesting precipitation that really not a lot of people know about, and it's called graupel. And this can even happen in temperatures in the 40s. You can get this in temperatures in the 40s. The graupel becomes super cooled, rain droplets fall below freezing, creating that fragile structure identified. And it's kind of like white putty, essentially. It's really, really weird looking. And I'll show you an example of graupel. It is a really weird look as we're talking about graupel, but it's weird. It's kind of like soft hail. It's kind of what you think about. I think about as. Then we get into the two precipitation types that a lot of people in the general public get confused about. Sleet and freezing rain. And Kate, you can chime in on this. Sleet and freezing rain is some of the most dangerous precipitation types.
Yeah, it all depends on where that temperature conversion is. The higher the temperature conversion is, the hot seas. Where the warm air meets the cold air, that level where people get out of sleep or feel snow.
Yes. So let's bring an example here. So you're waking up in the morning and you're hearing like that bouncing noise. That's sleet. That is sleet. That's those little ice pellets that fall on the ground. And they start off as the sleet pellets, but they actually freeze up. Here's a did you know? They freeze up as all ice. It ices the entire, like if it snowed and then you had the sleet on top, it's going to freeze that snow and make it a crunchy, crunchy surface. That's kind of what sleet is. It's more crunchy. We will be sharing in more, and this is a better look at this. This is a much better look at this. So with sleet, it's a shallow, warm layer. And that's what melts it. But then there's a deep color layer that freezes it back up, changing it into that ice pellet. With the snow, the column of air is all cold. Then we get into this one always is problematic. Freezing rain. known as the most dangerous winter precipitation type. It is absolutely the most dangerous precipitation type. You have snow that starts way up in the atmosphere, but there is a deep warm layer, and that warm layer melts the snow and changes it into a raindrop. However, with the shallow cold air that's not thick at all, it becomes super cool in a cold air. And then on contact, if the temperatures are below freezing, you guessed it, it completely ices things up. Now, give me 1 minute. I'm going to show an example of what that really means, what that really does. Like, for an example, to a power line.
Also, I apologize for that sort of practice stuff.
Hey, it's fine. This is our first time doing this. It's fine. But freezing rain, we may have to take a whole special to talk about freezing rain, because freezing rain is it's something you do not want to really fool around with. And yeah, here's one of the things about ice that people understand. You don't have to have as much of it. Ice is basically like rain. It's not like snow. Snow, there's a lot. I mean, you get a lot, and 1 inch of snow is not much. But showing an example of this. Let's show the ice thickness. Give me 1 minute. I was seeing something there that I liked. Right. Let's see here. Getting it. Don't worry. Da, da, da. There we go. That's better. For example, when it comes to freezing rain and ice, stuff like that, a tenth to a tenth and a half of an inch is not much, but if getting caused slick spots, glaze on objects, trees sag. This is the nuisance ice. Like, it could cause some significant issues, and it could still close schools down. If it's just a small layer of ice, it could still be problematic. You get over the quarter inch, the thickness, that's when the power outage. I call that the power outage threshold. The threshold of a power outage for an ice storm is mainly above that quarter of an inch. Now, there's some power lines that can take more than that, but there's also some power lines that don't take much at all. And then once you get to a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch, you're talking about just massive issues. Massive issues. And we've seen ice storms, and I've seen ice storms in the past that have gone to an inch, and it's just straight up devastation, and it is not fun. Did you know a half inch of ice can be as equivalent to 500 pounds? Yes, folks, 500 pounds. And then, when it comes to power lines, right? You add wind with an ice storm, you got a whole nother tool in the gambit of problems that you're dealing with. But that's some of our thoughts in the winter. I do agree with the above average in some areas, but there could be some areas that get below average. And right now, if I had to pick an area that's getting below average, I'm thinking Great Lakes. The Great Lakes area is likely going to get some below average temperatures. And the precipitations, I do predict multiple ice storms this winter. Well, I wouldn't say ice storms, but wintry mix situations. I do think we're going to continue that trend of wintry mix scenarios. But I also do think we'll get some snow as well. No, you can't really say, well, we're going to have 10 inches. We're going to have 5 inches. That is something that you learn over time. So, as we start closing this out, because we're close to 45 minutes, what do you have to say to our viewers, Kate?
Basically, remember to subscribe. It's going to have a lot of information about this weather on Thursday after more release information. And
I like that Thursday. Yeah, you said this Thursday there's going to be more information. That's good.
Yep, we'll be getting that NOAA briefing coming Thursday, October 20th. So we'll have a lot more information.
Well, guys, this is the first one. This probably won't be the last one. I hope you guys have enjoyed this stream. And stay storm warned. We are taking the world by storm. And that's the bottom line because Storm Master said so. Later, guys.